Hello everyone, GarethTheGamer here today doing a video on another indie 2D puzzle platformer game called Hue, which has been developed by Fiddlesticks Games. I know the previous video about the pedestrian may have shown why it may not be the best idea for me to review these kinds of games, but let's see how this goes. This game was free for Xbox Live Gold subscribers for the month of April, and I decided to give it a shot. I already played through the pedestrian at this point and thought that game was good, hence why I decided to take a look at this game and now make this video. So, the game begins in this void-like space and we get to hear a message from the character's mother, who seems to exist in a different plane of existence, being unable to interact with us or with anything really. She hints at an individual named Dr. Grey as a villain, trying to steal the annular spectrum that allows the user to see and manipulate colour, and she left to take refuge at the university. At the end of the path, you see your mother and a strange hooded figure. Then you find out that this was all a dream and the game starts up. At least you have more of a motivation and a goal with this game, unlike the pedestrian, although both games start with very little information about the world in which the game takes place in. So you get out of bed and walk around town. Now, most people would describe this scene as black and white, but that's not how I would define this. I would much rather use the term grayscale, which includes the colours black and white but also contains 50 shades of grey. Or more like 254 shades of grey, but who cares. If you go all the way to the left of the town, you acquire the first colour of the annular spectrum, aqua blue. This causes the sky to turn, blue, and the nasty weather to go away. If you head to the right of the town, you reach this cave system which is just begging to be explored. You encounter a miner who is trapped behind some rocks, so select the aqua blue colour and make them disappear. He escapes and now we have this cave system to work through. Thankfully it's quite linear and relies on loop gameplay, so we'll be here again. The first area we come across is the Waterfall Zone. We come across a lady just chilling here, and we get familiar with the mechanics of the game. Colour changing, moving boxes, and avoid dying brutally. Like, look at this, we play as a young boy and the game has no shame in punishing you for screwing up. Like here where I get crushed by rocks and you hear the poor boy's neck snap. Damn, this game doesn't fuck around. Effectively, avoid rocks, spikes, lasers, water, pits, all that good stuff. I'm really impressed with the finer details this game has. Like, look at the water stopping when I'm under it, or the chains and cables dangling around when I hit them. It's wonderful to see. Oh, what's this? The hooded figure from earlier. They're here because... well, it can't be too bad because we obtain another colour here, purple. The mother provides some insight into her situation. She believes to exist in a state beyond the visible spectrum, beyond the colour purple, like she's ultraviolet or something. Then there's the existentialism of her situation, pulling the whole, if reality is driven by perception and you cannot perceive me, then am I real argument. After some more colour puzzles, we see the hooded figure again, not ominous at all. Here we get the next colour, orange. After another message from the mother, we return to where the miner was and we can now progress to the next location, the fire zone. So as you may gather, the messages your mother leaves you hint at the backstory of this game and the relationship that was established between Dr. Grey and the mother and the events that lead up to the adventure we end up embarking on. I like this part where we have to run away from rocks that will kill us on touch and jumping over deadly water pools by using these alternating coloured crumbling rocks. And there's spooky, scary skeletons too. And they talk? Well, the hooded figure is back. I'm starting to believe this isn't a coincidence now. This grants us another colour, pink. A few puzzles later, we see the hooded figure again, which is what it is, which gives us access to yet another colour, red. I may as well point this out now, I like how the subtitles and achievements in this game spell colour with a U. That's how you know this is a very British production, which I totally like and support. With the colour red in our possession, we head back to the cave system and progress to the statue zone. Now look at what we have to do, dodge gigantic skulls, that's not intimidating at all. We get introduced to these crushing skulls too, which come crashing down when you get close. I think I will introduce these secret beakers that can be found throughout the game now. Some of them require you to backtrack when you get a colour that you get later on in the game, while others require you to be observant and some require you to go outside the confines of the level, like here. How is anyone supposed to know to go back here? It's not like the Beakers or getting all the Beakers gives you anything special or unlocks anything cool to use in the game. They're there for achievement and collecting purposes, I suppose. I'll bring this up later as I have a major criticism coming. You again. What is your game here? I'll take that. The colour blue for our annular spectrum. Well, it's more like navy blue since we had aqua blue earlier. We get balloons now, so be prepared to start thinking with your head, I guess? Another Indiana Jones escape-esque sequence later and you gotta be kidding me, you again? How is this happening? Well, we have glorious piss yellow at our disposal now, so let's put it to some good use, like opening the way to the last location of this cave system and reaching the electricity zone. Immediately upon entering this zone, we get introduced to lasers that are, of course, deadly to the touch, so don't touch. Surely these sparkling, dangling cables should be doing something to us, but apparently we are immune. Yeah, there's no fall damage or shock damage, but God forbid you touch the water or a rock the wrong way, and that's the end of it. These puzzles aren't fucking around now. Look at how dangerous this place is. And there's laser detectors too, so here's the obligatory Portal 2 comparison. Ah, this puzzle. You know, on my first playthrough of this game, this puzzle bugged out and I couldn't complete it. Now I don't have footage of this, so take it with a grain of salt, but basically the laser detectors didn't work. I was getting pretty angry with my efforts not working, so I ended up looking up someone else's walkthrough and found out that my game glitched. Wonderful. As it turns out, the autosaving in this game is pretty good, so a game restart later and I beat the puzzle as intended. Oh great, crushing skulls with lasers for eyes, marvellous. We get past them and no comment. This grants us the final colour, green, arming us with a complete annular spectrum. I like how the background continuously changes colours here. It's worth noting that if you enter a level from the exit and die, you respawn at the exit, so you don't have to do the whole puzzle over again from the start point. This is useful to know for that criticism I mentioned earlier. Don't worry, it's coming. A handful of puzzles later and we can proceed on towards the lighthouse. I like the mother's comment here about the possibility of discovering a third dimension, perhaps that will be in the sequel. We power up the lighthouse, allowing us to traverse the seas towards the university. Of course, it's not that easy, as the cable car that would take us to the university broke down, and so the only way forward is through a mountainous pass. The hooded figure is here too? Stowaway! After them! There's a new mechanic here, where there are these springy blocks that change colour every time you land on them, so caution and planning is advised. Oh, and I forgot about these falling ceiling spikes. Yeah, don't get caught by them. At this point in the game, you're getting tested on every mechanic that has been introduced thus far, so you really need to plan out your course of action, otherwise the boy dies. Yeah, I can't get over how brutal that is. If you can navigate your way through these puzzles, you end up at the university at long last with our resident hooded figure waiting for us on the roof. You see that door up there? On the other side of that door is where we need to go. Too bad we have to take the dangerous scenic route. There's a final mechanic introduced here, this slime that paints objects that pass through the stream with the colour that's spurting out everywhere. Thankfully this doesn't kill or affect you, so that's a good thing. But the bad thing about the university is, well, let's just say it's the longest section of the game by far, and also the most challenging. Better get your thinking caps on, because this is some tough shit. I like how the university has statues of historic figures such as Newton, Chevreul, Goethe and Maxwell. Cool stuff to see for nerds like me. Well, what sort of university is this? With lasers, pits and spikes and shit? No wonder the university is closed, all the students and staff must have fell victim to these death traps. He must be part of the cleanup crew. And what about the size of the university? You go through all of these tests and exterior environments in a space this condensed? I don't believe it, so we either have 3 spatial dimensions in this game, even though we don't see any evidence for this anywhere, All non-Euclidean geometry exists and reminds me of the end of the pedestrian. Anyway, I love how you can kick stuff like these books and trophies. It's the little things after all that count the most. But seriously though, these puzzles are ass. And now for the major criticism I mentioned earlier. This is in regards to getting all of the secret beakers, so if you don't care about collecting them, then this doesn't apply. You eventually reach this corridor which may seem as if something is present, but if you go on and beat the next puzzle, only to realise later that a secret beaker is indeed in this corridor, you have no way to go back. Why? Because there's a laser blocking the way out, plus purple blocks impede on your progress. You're stuck here, so the only choice you have is to restart the entire university section. Restarting the level doesn't help because that spawns you at the end of the puzzle, and there's nothing worse than making it all this way only to get fucked like this, which is what happened to me on my first playthrough. You have to do 11 puzzles over, excluding walking segments. All for one beaker? Damn. Mysterious fun secret beakers my ass. And to think after this globe-dodging, colour-changing segment lies the final puzzle of the game. The hooded figure waits patiently at the other side of a spiked floor and ceiling for us. I wonder how this figure would feel to see us proceed this far, only to die. But with unlimited lives, continues and time, we win and venture forward to the end. We receive a letter from Dr. Gray for a change, and he doesn't seem very villainous at all. Rather, he acted in ours and our mother's best interests, but seemed to realise that good old Ma had it all under control. We find out that the figure stalking us throughout the game was Dr. Gray, who can disappear or teleport at will. Whatever the situation is, we reunite with our mother at long last in a very wholesome cutscene and are shown the characters heading back home. We get tucked into bed by Mama Bear and experience one final scene. There's a question about seeing everything in true colour and whether or not that's for better or worse, and we see our mother and Dr. Gray looking over a buggy. Is this to insinuate that Dr. Gray is our father, or that we have a younger sibling, or is he just looking out for us? Or is this just a vague memory of ours? I mean, Hughes. Yeah, the name of the boy we've been playing as the whole game is the name of the game. I feel like I should have mentioned this earlier. But with that, the game is finally over and roll those end credits. I would describe this as a pleasant game. The graphics are neat, the background music is wonderfully composed by Alkis Livafinos, sorry if I butchered that. The gameplay is not too intense, the puzzles that you have to solve increase in difficulty as the game progresses, which is what you would expect from a puzzle game. It's all good stuff. However, my major issue with this game concerns the collectibles. They're not worth collecting as there is no reward, other than an achievement, for getting all of them, and you have to backtrack to areas you've already completed to obtain beakers you just couldn't get the first time around. Of course, you can argue that adds replay value to the game, but really, you can beat this game one time and have no real reason to play it again, or if you already did a completionist playthrough, then there's no justification to do another. This game reminds me of The Pedestrian a lot, with Hugh being another Unity project, but also makes me think of Portal 2 mechanics as well, which isn't a bad thing. Overall, this game is a good game to play, albeit only one time. If you like puzzle platformers, I would strongly recommend Hugh. My criticisms are only really due to circumstance and not due to any horrid flaws or bugs with the game, or if that is true, then it only happened once and never happened again. And that is the video, hopefully you liked it. Please consider buying me a coffee to help support the effort of making videos for this channel, and I'll see you next time for a first person shooter game that has been lost to time and is surprisingly awesome. Thank you for watching.